Look at this graph. It maps the number of users playing the game Skyrim at any given time. And on January 19th of this year, that number was 67,622, just 2,000 users short of its all-time high of 69,776, which the game hit in October of 2016, over 8 years ago. This blew me away. As someone who's been playing Skyrim since 2013, I was stunned that almost a decade after the game's re-release, the game was still just as popular. Skyrim is considered by many as one of the greatest games of all time. It is one of the most highly decorated games of all time, and it popularized a format that would go on to define both Bethesda and the RPG genre. So what makes a game go from just being popular to one where the player base is still strong nearly 15 years after its release? To answer this question, I sought the expertise of the original team that created Skyrim. Through their sharing of experiences working on the game, you can identify what sets Skyrim apart in the RPG genre and determine the key elements that in 2025 can make future games feel just as special. Every special game starts with an idea.
I mean, honestly, lunchtime conversations with a number of us. Hey, we think we want to do this. This is what it's going to be like. With an Elder Scrolls, you know you're going to do it.
It started with the difficult task of following their most successful game at that time.
The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion, developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by 2K Games in March of 2006, quickly becoming the most successful Elder Scrolls game to date, selling over 3 million units by January of 2007 and moving over 9.5 million units by 2015.
How do you go about improving on that?
What's the tone we're going for, right? Where's it set?
Bethesda knew they wanted to create another addition to the Elder Scrolls series, and they knew they wanted to repeat the open world RPG formula. But most importantly,
what's most important are the dragons, the exploration, and playing how you want.
Bethesda were approaching the end of the development cycle for Fallout 3, and the attitude towards a sequel to Oblivion was clear. When looking at Oblivion, they wanted to do some things better. Any idea with this many variables can only be executed with one clear vision. And at Bethesda, there was only ever going to be one guy.
Todd knew what he wanted. Seeing a creative director who knew what the game was about.
Oh, Todd does all the choosing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Todd does all the choosing. There's no applying for the job, as it were. You know? Every time there's a project that comes up, Todd Howard decides who he wants to be based on past performance, based on what he thinks the project needs.
But not only was he the logical choice, he was also the favorite choice at Bethesda.
Every time I sit down with a meeting with him, every now and then I have to remind myself, I'm like, hey, I'm talking to Todd Howard. He's a pretty cool guy.
Todd is very clear on what he wants. He'll walk into a room where we've been working on something and say, nope, should have been like this, or do it like this, or that's just right, instantly.
If you enter his office, no matter what the problem is or whatever, as soon as you leave, he'll make you feel like $1 million.
You know those moments in movies or TV shows where the character has something nice happen and they take it very calmly, and then they shut the door and then they start pumping their fist in the air.
Yep.
That was me, yeah.
Todd Howard was more than capable of directing a game with this greater scope, but obviously he couldn't do it alone. He needed a team that could translate his vision into reality.
Skyrim was made with less than 100 people.
For comparison, Destiny 2 developer Bungie had stated in early 2024 that they had a team of 1,350 employees working on the game, excluding third-party contractors. To say that the Skyrim team was small is a complete understatement. But they didn't need a large team, because their team was different.
It's much easier to relate to people closer to your age. No one had kids yet, really, so we're all like going out and having fun. We all kind of vibe together. Being in that kind of similar chapter in life, I should say, it helped a lot.
And not only did they get along, but their passion for the game made the bonds between them even stronger.
We're obviously big fans of the Elder Scrolls ourselves. These are the kind of games that we would be playing if we weren't here making them.
It was just like, wake up, go to the studio, work on this game that you love, hang out with people that you like, go home, Wake up, do it again.
By hiring these particular people, creators who shared similar life experiences and shared the same passion for the game, this small team was able to achieve what many larger teams today struggle with. So this, I would say, is one of the key elements that contributed to Skyrim's quality. They hired a small team of the right people.
Like, it took those people at that time in their lives to make that game.
Yes.
Like, you can't duplicate that.
So now that they had a crack team, they now actually had to make the thing.
The deadlines were pretty aggressive.
But those deadlines didn't matter as much because they ultimately loved the work.
I felt like everyone was kind of crazy in that sense. It wasn't about like, oh, I got this shit done like in this amount of time. It was like, no, everyone was like trying to get more time, add a little bit more.
It felt limitless. And it was the first time to me that I felt there was any game that really made you feel limitless. And that was magical. That was super magical to me.
It's the dream scenario for any working environment. Like in all jobs, deadlines can be painful. But for Skyrim, these guys were happy to work more. And in fact, were encouraged to go above and beyond, all in an effort to leave their own mark on the game and make it the best that it could be. And not only did the creators have that creative freedom, but there were dynamics between the creators that also made them work even harder.
But I remember from the beginning saying, okay, who's the top dog in here about certain things, with the art specifically, especially character. I zoned in on you very quick. I was like, oh man, Jonah's doing some dope shit. I was like, man, I gotta crush this guy. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, well, okay, my work has to be at least as good as this person, but being how I am, and you can relate because you're the same way. I'm like, no, it can't be as good. It has to be better, But the problem was, over time, I started doing that, and I was like, okay, I know I did this piece, and I'm like, man, this crushes the last thing Jonah did. This crushes it. And then you'd finish your piece, and it was like, oh, shit. And then eventually it was like, I go over to your side, I was like, yeah, I'm going to crush your next work. And you'd be like, now I'm going to crush your next work. We used to talk shit to each other, So at that point, it was just like open combat. It was friendly, but it was straight up open combat.
In creating a competitive working environment, it motivated each developer to create better and better work. And at first glance, you could see a potential writing on the wall moment for a toxic working environment. But for these developers, it was the complete opposite.
We were kind of competitive with each other, but not in terms of like, I want to beat that person. I just want to like make my shit better because that person did such a great job.
Oh, you're doing this? All right, well, I'm going to go back and do that because that's going to make your thing better. Right? Oh, you're doing this? Well, I'm going to go back to my desk and I'm going to like do this thing because I think that's going to like elevate everything.
Yeah, it was a friendly rivalry, but I grew so much as an artist that was the result of that from everybody, because everybody was talented and grew and did their thing. And it was just like, a lot of people think of the rivalry and are scared of it. And the truth is that the rivalry is absolutely what made me better.
By creating a friendly, competitive working environment, it pushed creators to raise their creative ceiling and produce the best quality game they could. But while this competition was really impactful, it was not the only method necessary to boost the quality of work.
At a lot of places, like a lot of larger studios, they tend to piecemeal it even more, and like you only handle smaller sets of animations, or you don't get that much ownership. And thinking back on it, I was like, that was really cool. Like that was a really great opportunity that I had no idea I had. I started out doing a lot of quadrupeds. So started out with like the skeever, and then from there worked up to the dog, the wolf, the horse, and then some enemies like Dragon Priest, the Flame Atronach, Spriggan. A lot of other mediums, you can silo yourself a little bit more. And then, you make the art and then you maybe hand it over the fence or down a conveyor belt, what have you. Animation touches so many different departments. Like we interact with design, we interact with programming, we interact with character artists. Being able to collaborate and communicate well with those people are so essential to getting something wonderful together.
And it's with this combination of factors that has given Skyrim the edge over other games in the development cycle, giving creators the freedom to experiment, developing friendly competition, and openly collaborating on ideas created a working environment that raised the overall quality of output and created the best game possible.
Everyone owns a share of that game creatively that, if it translated to dollars, would make everybody millionaires. Even the worst contributor to Skyrim still made an impression on that game, a measurable impression.
It's not that we did any one thing first or any one thing better. It's that we did it all.
And that's a great point. We know that the construction of this team was great and the working environment to make the game produce the best results possible, but what was their approach towards the game experience itself?
It was never about like what I drew or what I modeled or what I added. It was always about like, what can we give to the player? What can we do collectively to just make this better than it was going to be with each one of our additional steps on there?
They understood what players wanted from an open world RPG. They knew their audience very well, which is always key when developing any product. It makes it easy when deciding on which elements need to be included in the game.
But then if you look at the mods and what creators are doing to it, we think that is just awesome. It's something that we've always supported. We're going to keep supporting.
This was a crucial move. One of the most innovative moves by the team was to provide the players with avenues to safely mod the game. And this could be considered as one of the most important features of the game when discussing its longevity. Mods allow for the game to be taken in infinite directions, meaning the game would never get old. But although in hindsight this seems like an obvious home run, many decisions surrounding what was to be included in the final release were still unclear. So when they didn't know, they just asked each other.
And we didn't even care that like this was a thing that was going to be part of a game that was going to make money. It was just like we wanted to make each other happy, you know, like be proud of like, oh man, I'm involved in this team.
Because they themselves love games like this, they are perfect examples of their target audience. And when every idea runs through the filter of, would this be good for the player? Then every decision made has the player experience as the #1 priority. Another reason Skyrim has been so successful.
I remember for a while the horse wasn't working out. You know, we were having so many troubles with it, trying to like ride the horse. You know, the horse sometimes was so fast that the world wouldn't load in time. And I remember like there was almost like an ultimatum at a meeting where like Todd was like, we'll cut the horses if we need to, because what's most important are the dragons, the exploration, and playing how you want.
And that is key, giving the player the opportunity to do what they want. All these decisions made towards the development of this game had been important. Hiring the right people, creating the best working environment, and adopting a player-first mentality all contribute to the core of what has made Skyrim so special.
If you think about any game that you've played that you've put down, it's either about a frustration / confusion or boredom.
Yeah.
You got to put the player right in the middle of that. Because we've been classically, with most of our stuff, single player, that water cooler shared experience, we would have a thing like where we call them did you know moments. Like we got to have a bunch. So you meet someone, they do, what are you doing? And then they say, did you know? If you go here and do this, what did you know?
From the very first draft of Skyrim, there was one clear goal: to immerse the player in their world.
Because when you're doing the kind of things we do, where you step into a virtual world, it does have to have that moment of, wow, this feels real. I've never experienced this. I think it's okay to let just like the time settle. Meaning you step out, just how does the wind sound? How are the trees moving? How are the clouds moving? I think that's just part of being that character, being that person in that space.
And that mindset towards the player experience is what Skyrim is all about. By immersing the player in their world, they forget that it's a game. It becomes an escape from the pressures of daily life, a place of wonder, excitement, and mystery. And when a virtual world is that enticing, it keeps players coming back for more. And that is what still makes Skyrim so special.